I'm Alison Volgamore, the president and CEO of the orchestra, and we're thrilled that you're here, and of course, that Yannick is here.
Thank you.
We want to start with something very special, and hopefully you've peeked ahead, and we're going to talk a great deal about it. But we're blessed in this setting to have a unique instrument of this organ. And so we want to begin, frankly, to set a tone for the season and set a tone for this announcement by having the Fred J. Cooper Memorial Organ played by a very famous personality to all of us here in Philadelphia. Please welcome organist Peter Richard Conte. This is a great tradition of this hall, this instrument, and we're fortunate this year to begin a true partnership with it. And let me say how thrilled we are to have all of you on stage where the musicians are. You're in our home. That was very important to us this year. Gives you a little closer perspective of what it's like. We are seated so that we can enjoy the organ today, but it's important for all of you who came and filled out the rest of the house for us to say thank you as well. And we also want to say thank you to our good friends of the Kimmel Center, where we are here at home. I hope you'll notice in this year's brochure that we feature the architecture of the Kimmel as art. And so you'll see two messages, we hope, beyond the programming. You will see yourself as an audience. You'll see our musicians have had many wonderful encounters with the audience, and so you'll see yourself here or there, or those who represent you, and then beautiful architecture of our home here, both at Verizon and the Kimmel. But it's time to talk about the music, and I know, Yannick, you're ready to springboard us into action. So one of the most signature themes for next year, I think, is going to be a lot of fun. It's a big year for you. You're going to turn 40. So in your turning 40, which we all will find a way to plan a big celebration around because he's actually conducting that week here in Philadelphia. But we will have a surprise for you then. Why don't you tell us about your surprise to us of the 40/40 project?
Yes, thank you, Alison. We wanted to design these two things. We wanted to design something, yes, about the anniversary, and jokingly we said, oh, how can we expand about 40? It's 4 times 10, 2 times 20, and we started, all elaborating. And all of a sudden we said, what would be my present to this wonderful audience? So I tried to imagine, like you always imagine when you want to give a present to someone, what would the person would like? And you as an audience and as our subscribers, what I heard in my past 2 seasons here, first 2 seasons, was a lot of willingness to have this piece of repertoire, that composer more featured, or we love that Mahler symphony, but why don't we hear a symphony by this one, by extension? I heard the curiosity of this community. I heard the wish to expand our horizons. And this is why my present is actually to give next season 40 pieces that have not been performed by the orchestra in my lifetime. So in the past 40 years.
In Philadelphia.
In Philadelphia. For example, the first suite of Nutcracker. How obvious is that? But it's never been performed on subscription for the past 40 years. Other things, more importantly, more substantial, would be some tone poems by Sibelius. We always play the symphonies. Some tone poems have never been played for the past 40 years. Janáček, the Glagolitic Mass, never been performed on subscription. Well, I'm glad, I'm glad you like my present. Then there's Vaughan Williams. In those post-concert, how many times? In our
everybody's raised Vaughan Williams, yes.
Post-concert conversations, people bring it, when will you play Vaughan Williams? So there's the 4th Symphony next year. And
Glazunov.
Glazunov, yes, Glazunov, you're absolutely right. All the Seasons of Glazunov is a wonderful series of tone poems that we will combine interestingly with other composers that season. And living composers. 9 living composers will be represented next season as part of this. Jennifer Higdon, of course, with her violin concerto, but the violin concerto has never been performed by the orchestra. Stephen Paulus with a work for organ. Stay tuned, we're coming to the organ feature. Michael Doherty, who's written a concerto for one of our principals. Julian Anderson, and so on. There's Bramwell Tovey, who also will come and conduct his own pieces. So that's all very exciting. The American premiere of Mark Anthony Turnage, a British composer, Mark Anthony Turnage, a concerto for piano that he wrote for Marc-André Hamelin, that I commissioned actually in Rotterdam. And it was such a success last year in Rotterdam. I said, okay, let's give it here the North American premiere with Marc-André Hamelin, my fellow Canadian, but who also has a lot of ties with this city. And we commissioned a new piece by Nico Muhly, which will be premiered here, world premiere, but also will represent our culture, our dedication to new music, all the way on tour to Europe, because we're going to be touring Europe at the end of next season, and very proudly so. And speaking of Michael Doherty, I said he wrote a concerto for one of our principals. She's one of our most famous principals because of her artistic qualities, and because also everywhere I go, I travel the world, the representative of her instrument always come to me and say, so you work with Carol Jansch? I say, yes. Oh, I don't know her, but I hear she's amazing. So she is really world famous, and she's here in Philadelphia with us, and she had this wonderful concerto premiered last year, and we decided to to have it on subscription here. And she is here, actually this afternoon, to play us a little sneak preview of the piece. So please welcome Carol and her accompanist, Leo Kwakman.
I'm so excited to play this piece for you next year. It's a piece based on the Mississippi River. So Leo and I are going to play for you fragments of the first and second movements, which are titled Mist and Fury. So you can sort of imagine the fog rising in the morning over the river, and then maybe like a post-storm flood or something.
Whets our appetite to hear that piece next year. Fun to get a preview. Oh, it's wonderful. A major endeavor next year, and also a part of the 40/40 program, is the next in the series of the Requiem cycle. And I think you've made a very important choice to choose the Leonard Bernstein's Mass. There are many impressions, yay. There are many impressions of this truly, truly great work. I had the honor of being at the premiere and knowing I was going to work for Mr. Bernstein after the premiere. And all his life, this was a work that he hoped would bring community together, would speak beyond the music itself, and cause dialogue and debate. And I think our great hope is that as you stage this work, and we will stage it, I know you'll talk about that we will, as a community, ask ourselves the great questions that it poses and participate. So we'll stay tuned. We'll be looking for many to join us in this production as we go forward.
Indeed, Alison, because when we launched that series of the Requiem, what was important for me when we started our journey with Mozart, then Brahms, then Verdi, then Fauré, to have this pinnacle now with something that is not called a Requiem, but was conceived as a mass as a remembrance for the late John F. Kennedy. And I think it's a visionary work, which indeed had a lot of things written about it, for and against. And the most wonderful aspect about it is that we have to understand it as a real community event. So what we mean is that it does call for the Philadelphia Orchestra as a centerpiece, but it does call for a cast from Broadway singers, it does call for dancers, it does call for various choirs, a marching band, a rock band. Dancers and theatrical supporters. So that means that stay tuned, because the whole thing isn't fully cast yet. And what is our hope is that we bring this as from various cultural neighborhoods in Philadelphia, or backgrounds, or people who are our regular partners, or people who will be new as partners with the orchestra, and that we understand it as a community experience that we will live through that piece.
Yeah, it's beautifully timed, because we've all relived the Kennedy story just recently, and also it's timed in a way that it's so retro, it's hip if you're of that opinion, and on the other side of the coin, it's important to have an American in your Requiem series, and here is the great maestro and his important statement. I'm thrilled, I must admit, and very excited because our musicians are eager to work with members of the community. So thank you for programming that. All right, well, we won't make you wait any longer for the details of our organ celebration, which we're tremendously proud of, and for now we're calling the Art of the Pipe Organ. As we said, we wanted to open and close today featuring the fact that we are truly blessed to have this wonderful instrument here in Philadelphia, uniquely here in Philadelphia. When writing the text for your brochure and trying to talk about this festival, we wanted to be sure and communicate a few very important reasons for us about why we're excited and want to have a tradition, a growing tradition of this instrument and its sound, the incredible ranks and abilities of this instrument matched and work with the sound of the orchestra. Often when we talk about an organ, there can be a kind of sense of dominance. We want this to be the solo instrument, we want this to be the sound partner, and we want the colors that can uniquely happen here on this stage between your orchestra and this instrument to start to flow and blend. So the power of the universe of sound that we believe that we're going to be able to create is inspiring to both of us. If you don't know, you must know it is the largest mechanical action concert hall organ in America. Yay. And will be on full heart-pounding display during a 4-week exploration of some monumental repertoire and some fun times on Halloween that we'll talk about. You know, the organ has always played a central role in most of our lives. It is the instrument that marks major milestones in our life. And I think for us, to have this celebration be a central character in stunning symphonic settings, but also to explore when you can come early and hear the orchestra on its own, and also present a full organ concert on Halloween as a part of what we believe in living in this hall, is going to be exciting. So we are planning that the Art of the Pipe Organ work that we do will be every other year rotated with a commissions weekend that we did last year, so that you can look forward to us exploring now and coming back and exploring again, not with an absence in between, but it's going to take us that time to be sure that we pick the pieces, bring the organist, and frankly build to the 10th anniversary of this instrument here in Philadelphia. And you already have some wonderful works for this year in the kickoff.
Because, you know, this, but you said it already, Alison, I think the beautiful, not challenge, but the beautiful journey that this takes is that we have to consider and realize that we have this symphonic organ, which is by definition so beautiful, but also can be the only match with the sound of this wonderful orchestra. And in having that in mind, there's many pieces where the organ is collaborating with the orchestra that we will be featuring in this month-long celebration. You know, it's a month in the fall, which will have for example, of course, Zarathustra Strauss, because you know that's
Everybody wants to hear that.
iconic, you know. Yeah. See, that I could do with my foot. Not the whole thing, though. We will have the Enigma variations, which also feature the organ in a wonderful way. But to lead to what you just said about the Composers' Weekend, what will be the culmination of that month-long celebration will be an organ weekend, where we will get the chance to hear 3 different concertos on 3 different nights. And that is something so special, I think, to Philadelphia, so special to the way we want to bring our audience and you with us on this journey. So, and 3 different organists as well. So there will be the famous Joseph Jongen Sinfonia Concertante, because this piece has also close links to our community with the Wanamaker organ. Then there's Alexandre Guillemot, a piece I conducted years ago in Toulouse that was wonderful, and it's more than the likes of Saint-Saëns, if I could say, very romantic. And the Stephen Paulus organ concerto. It's actually the grand concerto for organ, to be precise, and it is really grand. It does start a little bit like the Poulenc concerto, but only for a few minutes. Then it's a total different sound world. And I have to say, I'm in love with that piece. I might even say that this is the best organ concerto ever written. I'm so excited. So, I mean, I'm bringing it to you just because I believe these are the strongest pieces with extraordinary, talented soloists.
So we want to, in a moment, end with this excitement, so you leave with the organ in your ears, and you can, again, I remind you, just imagine where you're sitting today. And if you want to hear the organ from a different place, then begin to think about that as you imagine your seating and your selection for the subscriptions next year. So thank you for coming. Now please welcome one of our next organ soloists for the evening, Paul Jacobs, who will perform Viodor's Toccata from the Organ Symphony No. 5.